Generating traffic and sales can be a challenge for online merchants. But selling on the Walmart Marketplace puts your products in front of millions of customers who shop on Walmart.com. And right now, sellers who join Walmart Marketplace can save up to 50% on referral and fulfillment fees for the first 90 days. So get started today. Head over to marketplace.walmart.com/savings. That's marketplace.walmart.com/savings.
Welcome to E-Commerce Conversations, a podcast by Practical E-Commerce.
What is going on, Internet? Eric Banholtz back again with another E-Commerce Conversations. I hope all is going well on the other side of the Internet. On the other side of the Internet from me, Daniel. Welcome.
Thanks, Eric. It's good to be here, man. Excited.
Long time no see. We were at a conference together a few weeks ago, and you are the interim CMO of Pura. Why don't you tell our listeners what the hell Pura does?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So started with Pura about 4 years ago. So we're, young, mean startup, and we make the world smell better. So it's a smart home fragrance device that you can control the scent of your home all from your phone.
Yeah, it's super cool. Obviously, I'm a fragrance guy as well. We make bodies smell good. You make homes smell good. So it's kind of like a match made in heaven. But what's really impressive is just like the amount of growth you guys have done in a very short period of time. What do you think is the big attribution to that?
Yeah, I get this question a lot, actually. And the answer is there's no silver bullet that is just going to, take you to the moon. And it's kind of this mesh of everything kind of falling into place. And so, to give you, I could talk about this for hours, but from my point of view, everything from day one, the foundation had to be really strong. And what does that mean? You have to have a strong product market fit. And you have to have, a strong business model, and then build on top of that, which allows you to, grow like we have in the past 4 years.
For those who aren't familiar with Pura, like the product is pretty dope. So you got these devices, they retail for about $45. And then you have these pods, which go for what, like $10 to $15, something like that?
Yeah.
And then each device can hold 2 pods. Do they spray at the same time or at different times, or is that kind of up to the user?
Yeah, so they go at individual times. And so you can create custom schedules so you're not wasting fragrance. You can set it on like an away mode. So there's a lot of cool technology, a lot of cool features. There's a night light on the back. You can choose the color. And then one of the biggest kind of selling propositions is that we have a partner marketplace. And so we partner with some of the largest fragrance brands. And so you can find, the volcano candle scent, use that in your Pura, control it all from your phone. It's clean, safe, no open flames and things like that.
Yeah, no volcano going off, huh? So when I look at it, it seems like, when I put my business hat on, it seems like the margins would be relatively tight. Like, are you a pure D2C play, or are you guys able to work through the channels as well?
Yeah. So historically, most of, our sales have come through our website, but as we gain these partnerships, they have pretty strong retail footholds. And so we actually are in a decent amount of retail as well and growing. So we're in Nordstrom, Sephora, Saks Fifth Avenue, Anthropology, etc. But we're kind of doing both at the same time. So I'm mainly over kind of that D2C e-commerce strategy and have a strong retail presence.
Yeah. When we talked, like one of the things that was important to you guys is being profitable and like making money. Is that still the case and part of the future, or is that a strategy that kind of comes in waves and goes in waves?
Yeah, we still like making money, actually. And so the strategy does change a little bit depending on, how the market's doing, how fast do we want to grow. So historically, we've been, very profitable, and we are in this hyper growth phase. And so we're willing to potentially trade, day one profitability for long-term ARR growth, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I would imagine your customers, you get them on board, they invest a couple $100 in their first order, right? And then, they want to also continue using the product, so it's not a waste. So I don't know what your like lifetime customer value is, but I got to imagine it's pretty sizable for your, loyal customers. I want to kind of pick your brain about maybe some of the failures you've had as you try to grow super rapidly. Where are the things that were just like complete swing and misses?
Yeah, great question. Early on, my background was in paid social. So we found traction pretty quickly on, Facebook, Instagram ads. We probably some of our biggest misses were in influencers early on. We've since cracked that code and it has been one of the biggest home runs. I feel like it's, one of those things where you're swinging for the fences, but there were times where I remember there was a campaign, we spent $400,000 on a campaign that completely flopped.
With an influencer or a creator?
So it was probably, that's over, I can't remember the exact number, but 40, 50 influencers.
Okay.
But for whatever reason, this campaign didn't hit, even though we had some traction. So we were feeling confident. So we're like, all right, we're going to place this bet here. Totally flopped. 6 months later, run a similar campaign and completely took off. So it's one of those things that we kind of took our learnings and then we're able to make it work.
So I want to dig into this. Like, what was the campaign? Like, was it the message that you were working on, or how do you identify a campaign? Or is it the people who you targeted was considered the campaign?
Yeah. So it was it was just last holiday season, actually. And we had kind of this big influencer day before Black Friday. And really the reason why it didn't work was we were working with an agency and we felt confident about it, had a lot of conversations. They had people that they were confident in. And it was just the influencers themselves that we worked with, for whatever reason, just didn't have that connection, with their audience. So we decided to bring it all in-house, actually. And then, since then, we've just kind of taken off in the influencer realm for sure.
So when you say you take it in-house, you no longer work with agencies?
So there's kind of a difference. There's like, full on agencies that will handle all communication and everything, and they'll take, their commission. And then there's kind of the influencer manager agencies. So we still work with those, but it's all in-house. We have kind of our in-house influencer team. They're vetting all the influencers, handling, all of the communication. And that has so far worked really well for us.
Walk me through a little bit more of like what your in-house program looks like. How do you vet people? Are you looking at engagement statistics? Are you asking for audience metrics? Like, how granular do you get with the influencers? And then how do you kind of set that CPM with the influencer? I assume they're paid placements versus like an affiliate or like a commission kind of program.
Yeah. And kind of to speak to that first. So the way we have it set up is we kind of have like macro influencers, micro influencers, our ambassador program, and our affiliate program. The macro and micro influencers were typically just paying, here's your fee for the post, no real affiliate back end. For some of the smaller influencers, we'll work on like a commission base. And then, our ambassador program, it's really just finding, the fairly small influencers who are just in love with Pura. And then, we'll send them gifts and swag and things like that. And then the affiliate program, you have a lot of like, the kind of traditional affiliate partners. And then you also have some influencers out there who just love working on a commission basis. And so we use Like to Know paired with Impact, which is a software to keep track of all our affiliates. But as far as vetting these influencers, it's a little bit of an art and a science, because you can find influencers who on paper look really good, have a large following, have a great engagement rate, the content looks good, and then they fall short. And so we definitely are looking at all those metrics. And then we put a lot of weight into, we have this list of kind of our star influencers, right? And then how do we find people who are like them, similar in their content? How do they sell the product? Does it come off naturally? Things like that. And so our influencer team has a great eye for that, to understand, even though this influencer looks great on paper, we're a little bit concerned with the content that they're creating.
So a little more granular, how do you break down the macro? What did you say? The macro, the
micro ambassadors.
What are those sizes of audiences typically? Like, is macro over 1 million? Is macro over 100,000?
Yeah, we don't have like super hard and fast rules, but typically macro for us is like, anyone over 250,000, 300,000, and then anyone below that. And like I said, I mean, there can be an influencer that has 100,000 followers and we treat them like a macro influencer. It just kind of depends on what kind of return we think we'll get from them and how much we're willing to pay. So,
and then like if I was to hire someone and I wanted to build out a program similar to what you're doing, what would be my expectation for my team member in terms of like signing up partners? Like how many can they bring in a month or a week or whatever that metric is for vetting them and bringing them on board?
For the influencer team? Yeah, that's a great question. We lucked out and found Sam Forrest is her name, and she does. No one reach out to her. I don't want
edit out her name.
But she's incredible, and yeah, she has a variety of skill sets that work really well, and so we're able to. Some months, we kind of scale up and down. For example, November. I mean, we're working with, over the course of November, we're working with, 60, 70 influencers, which is a decent amount if you think about it. All of the individual communication, sending them, the Pure device with the fragrances they want, making sure they post, like it's a decent amount of work. And so Sam, she does a great job. She actually comes from kind of like a brand marketing background. So she has that eye for what good content looks like and sounds like. And she's also a consumer of influencer content herself. So she's very in the know of, who's performing well, who should we reach out to, who should we work with. So she has a very good understanding of marketing, of content. She has a good understanding of the business needs. And then she's also just a go-getter and is very on top of the email communication, which is a huge part of influencers. So
does she also have to handle the negotiation? Like I assume like with the larger ones, there's kind of a bit more back and forth with what they want.
Yeah, she does handle all the negotiations really well, which is a good point. And she's great at establishing relationships as well, which allows you to kind of go further, honestly, with your money. I mean, we have some influencers who we typically pay $30,000 per post because they perform so well and they reach so many people. And because of the relationship that we have with them, they'll go and post for free every once in a while. And so that goes a long way.
Is she reaching out to them through like the Pura Instagram account or whatever, or does she use her personal handle to reach out to these people?
Yeah, she does both as far as, we'll reach out through Pure Instagram, but then a lot of times, you can find the email of kind of their manager. So, once we can get that email, it's all through email, but sometimes we go through Instagram.
Yeah. It's funny because I feel like, what I've seen is like email with a lot of our partners is like the worst platform. Like they don't reply, they don't respond. Get their phone number and, you get instant replies and, hop on the phone call. It's just like a lot better.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And the other thing that we kind of do, like our affiliate guy is also like verified. He's, kind of in the space as well. So there's like this kind of, I don't know, sign of clouts or, like a little bit of easing in so he can reach out through his own personal account versus the brand account, where I feel like that also kind of breaks down that barrier. But there's so many components to building a good program that you said in terms of like negotiation and follow through. And I mean, 60 a month sounds like a lot because there's 20 days. So that's 3 people per day that you're really actively working with, not considering like past months and future months and things like that.
Yeah, November's wild. And then going into December, January, it really slows down.
Yeah. This person's not responsible for like the affiliate program or the ambassador program. Is that handled by somebody else or?
So she's in charge of all of it, but then she has her team. So she has like an influencer coordinator who, there's a decent amount of like packing boxes out and helping with communication and checking in on things. So influencer coordinator. And we actually have just recently the social team now reports into her as well. And we have kind of the social media manager, but they're able to help kind of monitor things as well.
Now, in today's environment, like if you were building Pura from the ground up again, would you start with influencers or would you still start with paid social?
Great question. I'm a big believer in that strategy of starting with paid social because for us, early days, I mean, this was a brand new product, right? It had 20 patents on the device. We were the first in the smart home fragrance space. So we had to figure out kind of our messaging and honestly, even our target audience at first. So going through Facebook and being able to put, $5 into an ad here, $5 into an ad here, change the messaging, change the content, change the target audience. It's a great testing platform to kind of find that product market fit, which allowed us to, because I mean, today talking about it seems like a no-brainer, right? Like at home blogger moms, that kind of influencer demographic. But at the time, I mean, it was like, oh, wow, are like tech people going to really love this because all the, the smart home automation stuff. What about pet owners? Like, do they love that it's safe for pets? And so being able to kind of cast a wide net, we found pretty quickly what message, what content resonates. And then we were able to kind of take that to influencers where it's a little bit of a bigger bet. And I mean, we probably worked with 100 influencers before we found what worked, where we were getting a really solid ROI. So it took time for us, but maybe in other, industries and other companies where it's maybe a little bit more of a clear line of sight to who your target customer is. And there's a clear like influencer network talking about that space. I think it just depends kind of on each individual company.
Now, I kind of want to segue a little bit onto your website and kind of the design there. You have beautiful photography. Is that all done in-house?
Yeah, we tend to do everything in-house. So the whole creative team is in-house: photography, video, design.
Yeah. And they're doing all of the kind of like the fruit and stuff like that too.
Yep.
The note. You have a ton of options. And, my question is like, do you see having so many fragrances, do you see that as an overwhelming, I want to say burden to shoppers, but like almost like creating too much decision fatigue? Or are your customers pretty much being guided into like a landing page where they're not shown, because how many fragrances do you guys have? Like 80?
No, we actually have over 250 fragrances.
Okay, 250 fragrances. Like that's a lot of fragrances.
Yes, I would agree. And it's something that we talk a lot about. At one point, I mean, because when we started, we had like 12 fragrances. And because fragrance is so personal, meaning you talk to, if you went around, we have, like 180 employees at Pura. If you went around and talked to every employee, almost every single employee would have a completely different favorite fragrance, which is pretty interesting. And so early on, we had 12 fragrances. We launched with our partners and we immediately saw a big spike. And so we just continued with that strategy. And we now have like 32 partners. And so they have all of their fragrance lines. So all of a sudden, you're at 250 fragrances and the customers are definitely running into decision fatigue. Which one should I pick? And so that's where kind of a quick fix that we implemented was kind of starter kits, right? So, and a lot of the influencers, they have their 2 favorite fragrances that they're pushing. And so we'll create a kit specific for them and have, the the Laura Beverlin kit and her 2 favorite fragrances. And then that takes away kind of the decision making. And then we're still continuing to work on more of a funnel, more of a curated kind of experience where you don't have to sort through 250 fragrances.
Yeah. And are any of these like limited edition or, because that's a lot of SKUs to manage as well, kind of operationally. I guess you got the team to build it out, but how do you make sure that you guys are able to produce? Because with 250 fragrances, that 250th bestseller is probably not doing very many units compared to your number one.
Yeah, exactly. And it is kind of an operational nightmare, but luckily we have a really solid team there. And yeah, I would say that, so currently, to answer your question, currently we haven't done any limited drops, but that is definitely, there's some drops coming up soon that will be limited. And the reason is because there's been so much focus on the subscription that when people find a fragrance that they like, they want to stay on that fragrance on the subscription. But we're going to test out some drops here pretty soon.
Yeah. I think you'll have success with that. I think people understand, especially seasonality, the whole pumpkin spice latte mindset or summer fragrances or whatever. I want to talk about you guys have grown incredibly quickly at a very large scale, tapping into kind of that mom blogger industry. Do you feel like there's still room for growth in that? Or do you feel like you have to grow beyond that audience to kind of hit, I guess I don't know what the end goals are for the company, but the direction that you guys want to go?
Yeah, we were just talking about this yesterday. It's been a hot topic. Where are we going to grow moving forward? And currently, the past 3 months, we've grown faster than at any time in the business, which is crazy. And that's pretty much just all targeted around this very specific segment. So haven't hit any sort of real, plateau there, but just looking towards the future, we are trying to make strategic plays with the content that we're creating to try and attract a different audience. And so we've done a bunch of kind of segmentation studies to figure out, what is that next audience to go after, and then have a whole strategy around that.
Yeah. Obviously the home is that big component. And I think, we've talked about hit and record, new opportunities to tap into, of course, dudes and where dudes stink up the place. But you guys don't quite go as a deodorizer, right? Because what is that? Febreze, their sales pitch is eliminating bad smells. Yours is more about, I don't know, do you guys get into the deodorizing? Is that kind of part of the strategy?
Yeah, we've always tried to position ourselves as more of kind of a product to elevate your space, right? Versus, put this in your bathroom or by your garbage, because people are going to go buy a can of Febreze or, plug in a Glade or Airwick to kind of fill that space. But yeah, for sure, our customers, it's kind of a dual value prop that our fragrances smell incredible. And so, you're not going to smell the bad smells, but people first and foremost buy Pura because of kind of the premiumness of the fragrance.
Yeah. You've got a fragrance quiz as well. Do you find that works pretty well at focusing people towards the right fragrances? And kind of what is the technology that you're using for this? Did you build out your own stack, or are you working through Shopify?
Yeah, working through Shopify. So, I actually am forgetting the name of the quiz software that we use, but it's just a plugin and app in Shopify. And it works really well. See a great kind of conversion rate come from that. And I would say there's a lot of work to be done on that front. And then we're coming out with kind of our fragrance quiz 2.0. But so far it's been great.
Yeah. How smart are these quizzes? Because I know you can add a lot of logic into them, or they can be kind of dumb where it's you click floral and then we've just tagged all these as floral and that's kind of what you get.
Yeah, and that's what we want to get to is more of like an AI system with built-in recommendations based off of all of these variables. But even our quiz today, I mean, our website team, it's funny. I mean, we have a chief fragrance experience officer at Pura, and she's been in the industry for 25 years and knows everything about fragrance. And so our website team is, talking with Mara, our fragrance experience officer, and she's making sure that, the whole quiz is accurate, that when, this fragrance, it is good in the kitchen for people who like citrus, etc.
Yeah. Well, I think what you guys are doing is quite impressive. The influencer program, ambassador program, like you briefly touch base on ambassadors and affiliates. Is that a smaller percentage compared to quote unquote influencers? Or do you feel like they're also kind of pulling their weight, even though they have smaller audiences?
Yeah, the affiliate is kind of a strong baseline where we see a very, very clear ROI from that, but it's not going to get you any like big spikes typically. There's a few levers we can pull there. Ambassadors is a little bit more of just kind of like a brand awareness play, building relationships, not really looking for any sort of clear ROI from that. And then, yeah, as a percentage, we definitely, when the macro influencers hit, they hit hard, and it's definitely felt. And then, obviously the whole strategy of taking that content, getting whitelisting access, and then boosting it through our paid media. So we'll have an influencer, she'll post, get an immediate 10x ROI. Then we take that content and we run that for a month to get, just that extra boost.
Yeah. Does that just run to her audience on that whitelisting, or you'll scale it up and out and just kind of let the Facebook algorithm figure out who it should go to?
Yeah, we typically start with her audience, but scale it up and out for sure.
Yeah. What other channels are you guys thinking about getting into from a growth perspective? Like, for instance, TV, or what do they call it? Like intelligent? I don't even know. They got new buzzwords all day long for TV.
Yeah, I don't know what's up with that, man. Like, I don't know why we can't just stick to some simple naming, but
like programmatic.
Yeah, they call it, OTT, over the top. I don't know who came up with that, but that's what we're calling it these days. But yeah, the past 4 years, I mean, we've been very gung ho on just, the performance marketing, and it's paid off, and we kind of have our system, but always looking to diversify, because you never know when, an iOS 14 update comes along and kind of dampens kind of the ROI there. But the next steps are, we are trying to break into YouTube. It's a channel we haven't historically spent a lot on. We recently, just over the past couple of months, have kind of cracked the code on TikTok. So we're scaling that up. And then we've always wanted to, we've dabbled a little bit in OTT, but that's kind of the next step, is as we continue to grow, how do we create an overall strategy where we can focus a little bit more on top of funnel, get a better CPM that ultimately impacts these more bottom of funnel channels.
When you're creating content, is it more important to have the right person in front of the camera, or is it more important to have like the right hook and call to action?
From what I've seen, you have to have all those pieces for it to like really hit. It's crazy when you're going through content and trying to figure out like, why did this piece of content hit and why did this piece of content not? It's pretty nuanced. And I think that's something that our team does a great job on, is understanding, like getting pretty detailed with, this piece of content performed really well because they saw our face, started with an interesting hook, talked about how like added some urgency, like, hey, this last time I posted, this went out of stock, had a really strong CTA. So like they're keeping track of all of these details to understand what hits. And then ultimately you have to give the content creator space to be authentic and be unique. And so it's very nuanced. And I would say to get it to hit, you need the right person, right message, the right CTA. And if one of those things is off, still might work, but a greater chance that it just falls flat.
Yeah. Is it pretty hard to figure out what was the thing that caused? Because if you have 3 different components, like how do you isolate what is the component that worked or didn't work?
Yeah, very hard. And I mean, we have people who are constantly, this is really their full-time job looking at this. And even with that, we'll still every once in a while, just 2 months ago, we had a day where like 3 influencers all in one day just completely fell flat. And so there's a lot of variables, and you have to take some shots. And I think what we're trying to do is mitigate as much of that risk as possible, but there's always going to be kind of this unknown variable that you never know.
You just got to create, you just got to do it. You only live
Exactly.
life once. Just create some ads.
Yeah, I would say repetition. That's a huge key. You can't just, one influencer posted, they didn't work. We're not working with influencers. We're testing hundreds of pieces of content every single month. And there's going to be like 5 pieces of content out of all of that rises to the top, right?
Yeah. Where can people reach out to you, connect with you, or support your company?
Yeah, so you can just go to pura.com for all the Pura stuff. And then, reach out to me on LinkedIn. It's probably the best way to get in touch. Would love to hear from everyone. And I love talking marketing and strategy all day long. So I'm here for it.
Sweet, man. Well, thanks for coming by E-Commerce Conversations. I hope our listeners enjoyed it as much as I did. This has been another episode. Cheers. Keep on growing.